What was your biggest story in 2014? Welcome back to The Big Story. I am Sean Rose. In the jump seat, we have Troy Christopher. He's web manager of jtvlive.net. And he has decided that for him, the biggest story in 2014 was the announced planned departure of the leader of the opposition and then VIP chairman, Honorable Ralph T. O'Neill. Troy, why not the rise of the 3rd District Representative Julian Fraser to chairman of the VIP as your big story? Why O'Neill's departure?
Well, you can obviously see that they're tied together. But without the departure of R.T. O'Neill, the rise would not have happened. And this has been discussed for many years. He was an individual who would not be pushed aside. As a matter of fact, he said on many occasions, only God will tell him when to move. And so the way that I've worded it is the last of the old guards hangs up his boots. While some will argue whether or not he did a lot or he didn't do a lot, or whether or not he brought stability, or whether he could have been more aggressive, one thing is undisputed. He was a giant in the arena of politics. After more than 40 years of public service, R.T. O'Neill announced in 2014 that this would be his last tour of duty. And you know, his release of power, I would say, has been slow. Although he's no longer the chairman of the Virgin Islands Party, he's still the leader of the opposition. And there is now a race for the 9th district seat, which we will continue to see develop over 2015. There has been a battle for control over the VIP, which some say is still playing out. But you know, his departure, he's never been someone who was afraid to hold his tongue. He would tell you specifically what he had to say. And I would say that it's very interesting the way that he departed, because he stood by himself in the House of Assembly in 2014 and supported the NDP government's initiatives, 2 key initiatives, the cruise pair project and the national health insurance, where some of his other members didn't choose to support him. And
he also didn't side with one of his own members, Honorable Foy, when Foy called for a debate on the PAC report into the cruise pair project.
That's correct. I mean, he chose to word it differently. He asked to have it settled in a different manner. But I think the most interesting thing was the debate on the audit report in Seacoast Bay. You would remember that Honorable Fraser got up and moved a motion to debate it himself.
Yes.
And asked Mr. O'Neill to second the motion.
Yes.
And when Mr. O'Neill, at least it seemed to the public like he pretended not to understand what Mr. Fraser was asking. But by the time the debate started, O'Neill was nowhere to be found. And that gave, you know, Fraser was left by himself. No one was willing to defend him. And if there's one person who could have defended him from an audit report, would have been the finance minister, who would have been Mr. O'Neill at that point.
So you think he was distancing himself, or is he distancing himself from the current
I
chairman?
I can't say that he's distancing himself. What we can say, though, is that it seems that he is a mature politician. He will decide who he will support and who he won't support. I think we've seen in a number of cases, if there's something that is in the best interest of the country, he's going to support whichever government brings it. And maybe, I don't know whether this is a development late in his career or he's always been this way. But this is what a lot of people are respecting him for. There's been some time over the years when there were some issues with stoplights, and he was willing to apologize on behalf of a minister who wasn't willing to apologize at the time. So he has developed a number, respect all across the board, regardless of which political affiliation. He's developed that respect. And and watching him step aside, I think, is the biggest story, bar none, for 2014.
And Sam, your opportunity to read Troy's story, O'Neill's departure.
No, I think it's very important. I think I would give it a 7 or 8. I think it's also a very big story, being the fact that he's been in politics for so long. I mean, it's important to see a man like that who been very significant throughout the Caribbean and not just the BVI in its development. For him to leave the political arena, it definitely leaves the door wide open for aspiring new leaders, new leadership. Virgin Gorda has a lot to look forward to, so I think it's a big story.
O'Neill's departure
I think
on a scale of 1 to 10.
I would give that a 6 or a 7. I think Mr. O'Neill, of course, certainly proven himself over time to be a statesman. He's been in politics for 40 or so years. And stepping down now leaves open the opportunity for other persons, for fresh blood to come into the 9th district. So I think that, I don't see it as significant in terms of overall development of the territory. But politically, they have some ramifications there.
Sam Henry, you were riding on Governor John Duncan's hint of a commission of inquiry into the cruise pier project before the end of 2014. It didn't happen. Why did you choose that? Why not choose the Seacoast Bay Harbor Development Project or any other big story in 2014?
Well, I think when you look back for the past 3 years, the cruise ship project has been a heated debate from the beginning, from the fact that the government had to change several times, twice in its development. The government stopped the project in 2012 to reissue a bid for tender. That also, as you know and I know, there was a lot of conversation about that. There was a lot of debate as to whether or not the government was going about that rightfully. There was a challenge in the House of Assembly by even opposition. There was doubt whether or not it was a fair deal, whether it was transparency. There was letters from cruise liners citing conflict of interest. And then to move forward in 2013, we had the same situation going on. And then in 2013, the government did a 180 on the entire project. And then that called for investigation. The investigation is probably one of the biggest things in our time right now under this current administration. And the fact that the last governor, never took any action, even given the fact that he was asked on several occasions to investigate the situation. He never did up until the last moment. And then the new governor coming in, he came in with a lot of energy, a lot of expectation, and he said, by the end of the year, he will make a decision. That was his first comment. He also said that even before he got here, he was following the situation, the development. So I think many people were looking to see if this governor was a man of his word.
And he hasn't delivered yet.
And then right after he made that comment, I think maybe a month or so later, he decided to add, to water down the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Well, that's your opinion. Yeah.
Well, that's what he did. I mean, if I have a leak that's affecting the flow of water, and I ask you to come investigate the leak, if you don't come and investigate the leak, and then all of a sudden the leak stopped, but you never came to see where the leak was coming from, how can you find the leak? You didn't mark it. You don't know where it was coming from. And then to add other things on top of the leak, okay, it's fine. The governor can do whatever he wants if he finds it necessary. But to investigate by water, to investigate Seacoast Bay, then he might as well investigate for the past 10 years. He should investigate the tourist board. We had a serious issue with that. Someone actually went to jail. One of the lawyers in that case actually cited there could be possible corruption. He mentioned names in court and said that some other people should have been accountable. So, if the governor was really serious about investigating anything, he should have started with what he was asked to do first and then move on to the next.
Well, let me get a rating from Edgewenka.
As far as Sam's story is concerned, there's been a lot of aspersions cast and a lot of things that's being said about a cruise ship project.
What is your number?
Project. I give that about a 6 or 7 as well. A lot of aspersions cast about the conduct of the government in the cruise pier project. I think there's been a lot of transparency. There hasn't been any factual proof of conflict of interest, any factual proof of corruption. Certainly there's been no indictments or court cases surrounding it, and then again it depends on who you listen to, what media house you listen to, and what politician you listen to tell you whether something is going wrong or not. But the facts, when you examine the same Auditor General's report, you see possible conflict of interest or maybe some.
It's highly subjective.
It's highly subjective, as opposed to the Seacoast Bay project, which they tell you plain out that there was in fact money spent for work that was not delivered.
Troy, how would you rate Sam's story?
I think the specific story that he had was the governor saying that he would look into these cases to see if they warrant the commission of inquiry. And I would give it a 7, because if the governor is saying that he's going to look at something and he said he's going to do it before 2014 ends, I think that we should have been able to look forward to that and see whether or not he could have made those announcements. And I think that if he's going to make an announcement, yes or no, he should say something. Although the governor has the authority to, if he wants more time to look at something, or if it's different than what he thought it would be, he can. I just think that he probably should have said something, that he needs more time, or he said something. So from that point of view, in terms of keeping your word, I think he probably should have just said something.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. When we return, we will hear from Edgewenka why he thinks improvement in the health services in 2014 is the biggest story for that year. You're watching The Big Story. We'll be right back.